The announcement by the new head of Russia's space agency, Roscosmos, that the country plans to exit the International Space Station after 2024 marks yet another step in the country's broader departure from cooperation with the West over the last years. The trend toward exiting the ISS has been accelerated amid the sharply heightened tensions between the West and Russia since the latter's invasion of Ukraine this February. NASA officials in the US note that despite the announcement, Russia has not submitted official notice of its exit from the ISS. Current cooperation on the space station is set to run through at least 2024. Russia operates 6 of the 17 total modules on the ISS. Critically, Russia operates the engine module, which keeps the station on orbit and allows for maneuvers when necessary for the station to avoid space debris. Though an international undertaking, Russia fully controls its modules. US-Russia cooperation in space, especially in the post-Cold War era, had largely been insulated from geopolitical tensions. But that period appears to now have come to a close. As the two preeminent space powers during the Cold War, Washington and Moscow first began their exploration of space as competitors, before turning to cooperative work by the 1970s, following the US landing a man on the moon. In 1971, NASA concluded an agreement with the Soviet Academy of Sciences on space cooperation, and a 1971 intergovernmental agreement as part of US-Soviet détente further accelerated trends. The ISS project would likely not have manifested without that baseline of cooperation. Alongside the US and Russia, Japan's JAXA, Europe's ESA, and Canada's CSA are participating space agencies in the space station. The origins of the ISS trace back to the 1980s, and the first segment launches took place by the late 1990s. The first module for the ISS launched on a Russian Proton rocket from Baikonur in Kazakhstan, followed by a US-built component just weeks later. The first residents on the space station in November 2000 were 2 Russian cosmonauts and 1 American astronaut. If Russia proceeds to fully withdraw from the ISS, it will significantly complicate and likely fully end US plans to sustain the station through 2030, along with the other 3 ISS partners. The vagueness in Russia's statement on exiting the station and the lack of specific formal notice on plans for the exit could allow for interim measures to sustain the station. NASA and the other partners, however, should be prepared for a Russian exit after 2024 and well before 2030. Given that the ISS was designed to be an interconnected modular space station, it isn't clear or obvious how the station would continue to operate without the Russian modules in continued operation. Moreover, the Russian modules cannot be removed from the structure. Regardless of the specifics of the ISS's fate, the events of the first 7 months of 2022 suggest that the cooperative history of US-Russia activities in space is coming to a close. As Russia's isolation from the United States and the West becomes further locked in, it will be difficult to reverse course on the ISS and to promote other new projects that may have manifested. What about Russia-China cooperation in space? While China and Russia continue to cooperate in several areas, including space, there are no imminent signs that the two countries will pursue a collaborative space station. China has an autonomous space station, the Tiangong, in low Earth orbit, which is under construction. Current components of the Chinese space station, such as the docking mechanism, make use of Russian designs, but Beijing so far has opted to progress the station independently. China has emphasized space as a major priority, seeking to position itself as a leader. While this doesn't preclude greater Russia-China cooperation in space, signs on the specifics are limited for the moment. There are rumblings that Russia may pursue its own autonomous space station after exiting the ISS, but that's subject to significant uncertainty. Russia may not have the financial wherewithal to produce the so-called Russian orbital space station. Currently, they've said they expect to begin construction in 2026 for a first phase deployment by 2030. That timeline doesn't seem realistic, and may well just mean that Russia's exit from the ISS also marks its exit from having any sustained human presence in low Earth orbit.